My name's Tim Rockwell, and I have a consulting firm called Rockwell Growth Strategies, and we focus on serving small and medium-sized businesses up to $100 million. My consulting mostly surrounds sales and marketing, and all my clients have one thing in common, and it's a burden of opportunity, is what we call it, a burden of opportunity. Fortunately, it's not a crisis of opportunity, but all my clients, like the companies that I've worked for, they have that in common, is that they want to grow, they know they can grow, but they might not have every tool or every resource necessary. And so if there's a commercial problem, a sales, a marketing, a digital problem or challenge that's in the way of their growth, then RGS steps in to help out with that. So it's great to be here around a lot of old friends and new, and old colleagues and new. And I'm probably the perfect one to go next, because I was that sales leader who was originally resistant to the 80-20 brainwashing. But it was mostly because it was ops idea, and no sales leader wants to be told what to do by the ops department. But very quickly, once we started implementing 80-20, not just into the business, which the sales team felt the benefits from, but specifically within the sales organization, it very quickly endeared our hearts to the Pareto principle, 80-20. And now, like my wife says, hey, Tim, you can't 80-20 our relationship. You can't 80-20 my side of the closet, which is actually 80% of the closet. You can't 80% your 80-20 your parenting. So we use it as a verb all the time. And I went from an 80-20 skeptic to disciple. I sat under Ryan's tutelage for years. And now I'm an 80-20 evangelist. I absolutely love 80-20. It infuses every part of my personal and professional and now my clients' lives. And so I'm a big fan of it, and excited to talk a little bit about 80-20 implications in terms of sales or commercialization. So shaping sales strategy by focusing on what matters most. So just a quick agenda for today. We're going to talk about what does 80-20 really mean, which of course Ryan and Sean just covered, but there's a way that I like to think about it as we approach 80-20 in commercialization. How to focus teams. I think one of their last slides was about, it's really about focus, right? It's really about focus is the input, and the output is efficiency, which everybody likes. So how to focus teams. We're going to talk about hunting and gathering. How to focus producers, actual people that make up teams, which is leveraging their highest and best use. And how to introduce a new focus, which is segment and specialize, okay? So 80-20, at some point during my years of learning about 80-20, someone used this phrase. 80-20 really is about treating the most special things the most special. I don't even know if that's grammatically correct, but it's how I best remember 80-20, treating the most special things the most special, okay? So these are customers, these are your employees, this is your time. Of course, it's products and programs. It's everything in your business. I'm going to focus today on customers, employees, and time. But it's treating the most special things the most special. What I challenge you and your teams to think about is identify what you can't live without in your business, on your teams, in your customer base, and then behave accordingly. So as an exercise, create a scarcity mindset and think about what you can't afford to live without and behave accordingly. I don't know if you saw the news, maybe it was 6 or 9 months ago, a story came out about Netflix, and they were going to do a staff reduction, and their leadership asked them one question: who on your team can you not afford to live without? They stay, everybody else goes. And there was a lot of turnover at Netflix, and it was a big deal for several months, but they had to recalibrate. And one thing about 80-20 is, and again, I'm an evangelist, I'm a believer, I absolutely love it. It can be hard. It can be brutal. You will experience pushback, but it is so rewarding, and it's addicting. And again, the prize of 80-20 is efficiency. And efficiency, it's like a crack cocaine in business, is when your teams, your departments, your customer service becomes more efficient. It really is addicting. So that's the ultimate prize. But this is how I like to think about 80-20, treating the most special things the most special, and constantly IDing what you can't live without. Don't just think about it though, then act accordingly, okay? So, shaping sales strategy by focusing on what matters most. We're going to start first with customers. And there's sort of a concept within the 80-20 framework or sales in general, two types of activities within sales, account management, business development. There's hunting and there's gathering. And I bet, I won't ask you because we're recording, but I bet in your mind, most of us are biased one way or the other. You think one is better than the other. One is more important. One produces more of an output. One is higher value. And depending on your personality or your company's personality or your team's personality or members on the team, you might think hunting is better than gathering. Or you've met those hunters and the money-hungry, arrogant, crazy sales guys. They're the hunters. We like the gatherers. We like consistency. So we all have these biases. And I want to tell you that one is not better than the other. They're both really, really important. And believe it or not, they both complement each other in really important ways, okay? So hunting is about acquisition. This is prospecting new leads. Oftentimes they're cold leads. It requires a lot of energy, not just from the individual, but from the organization. It can be high risk, but of course it can be high reward. And just like hunting, one of my clients has a guy that elk hunts for about a week or 10 days every year, and they do it the real way. I mean, the manly man way. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like, I barely have a backpack that can fit a water bottle, but like they camp, they hike out to their spot, they paint their faces, they're like, I mean, seriously, it's pretty wild. And so just like hunting, in the real world, in sales, it requires a strong position. You have to be prepared. And we're going to talk about that preparation a little bit today. So the hunting zone is high value, high likelihood targets that resemble your 80s. So just for some terminology here, your 80s are that quad one. It's actually the 20% of the input that produces the 80% of your output. So the 80s is smaller in number, but greater in value. Does that make sense? So I talk about the 80s a lot, and I want you to know that it's the highest value output. Though, as a definition in the 80-20 world, that's what the 80s are. So again, your hunting zone are high value. This is really important. High likelihood targets that resemble your other 80s, okay? Ryan and Sean talked about ITW, and one of their companies, when I was learning about 80-20, it might still be one of their companies, but it's a commercial kitchen supplier. And they have a story about they wanted to supply Chick-fil-A. And so the management team, they hired a new, key account manager who had some, relevant experience with fast food chains. And they said, all right, your number one job, your only job is Chick-fil-A. So you need to close Chick-fil-A. We want our equipment in every Chick-fil-A location in America. And so they said, we want a business plan, a 30, 60, 90, 180, whatever business plan. And the guy came, and he's probably got an MBA from some bougie school. And it's this whole, impressive presentation. And the management team said, looks good, but this is not Harvard Business. We're an ITW company. We're 80-20. So this is actually how you're going to close Chick-fil-A. You have an unlimited travel budget, but you're only going to go to one city, so you might as well fly Delta because you're going to be going to Atlanta every week. And your job, this is your business plan. So you can just throw that PowerPoint presentation away. This is the business plan. You are going to fly to Atlanta every week, and you're going to have lunch every single day in the Chick-fil-A cafeteria. You're not going to cold call and try to schmooze some gatekeeper. You're not going to strategize. You're not going to figure out who knows the buyer, who knows the associate buyer, and maybe they were in my frat, or they look like they're my girlfriend's sorority. No, we're not playing any of those games. You're going to go down we're going to spend all of our resources. If Chick-fil-A is special, we're going to treat them the most special, and you're going to live in Atlanta every week and have lunch in their cafeteria every single day. So what happened? He met someone in sales, he met someone in finance, and through conversation, have you ever met, so-and-so in purchasing? No, we haven't met so-and-so in purchasing. I'd love to meet him. Well, it wasn't the right purchaser, but that person in purchasing knew the right person in purchasing. And anyways, you see where I'm going with this. They treated the most special thing, which was Chick-fil-A, the most special. They segmented one person to live in Atlanta, eat lunch in their cafeteria every day, and they hung out with high value, high likelihood targets that looked like the other 80s in the organization. And we'll talk about likelihood in a second. So that's hunting. Gathering or gathering is not about acquisition, it's about cultivation. So it's about nurturing your existing accounts. The point of that is three things. Protection. So Ryan talked about protecting the fort. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So that's one benefit of nurturing existing accounts. Upselling. At one of the companies I worked for, we had something called an unlimited steak budget. So any of our key account managers could take any of the top accounts to a nice steak dinner anytime they wanted. And what happened as they were nurturing those existing key accounts is new business was always the result of those nice steak dinners. New business was always the result of spending more time in a deeper level of service with our top accounts, with our 80s. So there's protection, of course, because if you have a relationship, if you understand what they need, you're servicing them properly, you're going to protect that account. But there's always upselling or cross-selling opportunities that you're going to learn about as you're nurturing your existing top accounts. Another benefit is you really deepen the foundation of the fort. So a big thing in 80-20 is protect the fort, protect the fort, protect the fort. And we'll talk about when to expand the fort, when to grow the population in the fort. But at the end of the day, you can't do those things if the fort is not protected. So cultivating these existing relationships in this gathering theme, really the purpose is to deepen the foundation of the fort, fortify it, make it stronger. And one of the benefits is you create raving fans. So within your loyal customer base, you don't just want customers that continue to buy your products and pay you money to do that. You want to service them so extremely that they're not just customers, but they become evangelists. They become raving fans. And one thing about 80s is they always hang out with other 80s. At the trade show, the top accounts, they know each other. They're friends because their businesses are alike. Your top employees, your top producers, they're not eating lunch with the mediocre staff. They're hanging out with the other high performers, the other high achievers, the other producers. But the same works with your customer base. So when you nurture your existing accounts, you deepen the foundation of the fort. Of course, you protect them, you can upsell them, you can cross-sell them. But then through all of that, you create these raving fans that are not only loyal, but then hopefully bring other key accounts or 80s into your world. So remember I talked a little bit about how hunting and gathering, they can actually complement each other. One of the ways they do that is when you're gathering, when you're cultivating relationships with your 80s, with the most important accounts in your business, you actually learn more and more every day about those types of accounts. So it actually makes you a better hunter, right? You understand how the animal moves. You understand where they eat, where they drink water from, what their fears are. I'll be done with that analogy, but you know what I mean. So the better you know your top accounts, your 80s, as you're cultivating, you get all these benefits and it helps you become a better hunter. So the gathering zone are loyal clients, repeat buyers, warm leads, really that quadrant one, your top products to your top accounts. That's where you want to spend a lot of your time cultivating. And again, hunting is still really important, but you have to be faithful with the cultivating, with the gathering, and that'll actually make you a better hunter. Hunters create opportunities. gatherers compound them. So again, one is not better than the other. Hunting helps you find new opportunities, new 80s, new ways to fortify, to grow, to protect the fort, and gatherers compound those opportunities. A couple pitfalls, and it was interesting as I was talking to Kanak about my presentation this week, just the different types of pitfalls he sees with some of his clients versus I see with some of my clients. But there's two common pitfalls. And again, this just depends on the type of business, the personality of your sales team or leadership, or the stage that the business is in. One pitfall is they just wait for the phone to ring with the right opportunity. Maybe it's a business where you have the privilege of being order takers. When your customers need something, they call you and they'll reorder it. That's a blessing, that's great. So I think, if you want to hunt, you're just like, well, the phone rings, we're selling stuff, numbers are good. I'm sure the phone will just ring with the right person eventually. That's not hunting. Hunting you need to prepare for. You have to hit the road, you have to go out. You know what you're looking for, but you have to go get it. And again, that's really important. You know what you're looking for because they look like the other animals you've killed before, but you have to go get it. That elk is not going to walk into your camp. Like you have to go find it. The other pitfall is, and I actually see this pretty often, is teams will spend a lot, if not all, believe it or not, of their resources on hunting versus gathering. I see this especially in short sales cycle environments or low value, more retail, sales style environments where, once you sell them once, it's easy to think like, what else can I get from them? So I started my career in the health club business for the Princeton clubs. I was an intern, got my first job in sales, and then worked up into management before I left for Imperial Blades. And this is really common in an environment like that, where it's like once they buy a membership, they're locked in for 12 or 24 months. Like, what else can they buy? Well, there's different types of membership, and it turns out the group of members that buy the highest value memberships, guess what else they buy? The individual personal training packages. And if they buy the individual training packages, they probably also buy the group training packages. And if they buy all that, they probably also buy a tanning package. And if they buy tanning, they probably also spend money in the pro shop. They spend money in the pro shop, they also are probably buying massage services. So it's easy for the sales team to think like, well, I'm incentivized on like membership sales. So I just need to it's turn and burn. I see, 5, 10 new people in here every single day. And so again, those are very short sales cycle, high volume, but low value type sales. And so it's easy for us as an organization to think like it's all just about the new membership, the new membership, the new membership. When in reality, and they could hire me as a consultant. So if you're listening, Princeton Club, no. But in reality, what they could do is figure out who's buying their highest value membership for the longest periods of time, who else is buying other services, and target those member types in unique ways. Special email blasts, special, premium member exclusives, because it's not always about taking from them, it's also about what you can give to them. But I do see that in a lot of type of businesses, especially again, if it's short sales cycle or high volume, low value type sales, it's easy to think there's no cultivating to be done here. It's just hunting. And in every sales environment, there is some cultivating to do, and it's amazing what happens when you do it. So what are some ways to reverse some of those pitfalls? Identify your vital few existing clients and double and triple your engagement. So in your business, you need to figure out, and literally Ryan talked about a top 10 list, but rank your customers, rank your clients, rank your members in terms of value, okay? That top, 80% of value, which is contributed by 20% of your customers or members or clients or whatever, you need to figure out how can we engage them more deeply. We'll talk about that more in a second. But really ID who are these vital few, and that's a scientific exercise that you need to take on. Who are our most valuable customers, and how can we engage them more? You also need to build systems so gathering doesn't require hunting level effort, okay? So gathering doesn't require hunting level effort. Hunting, like I said in my hunting slide, my last slide was, it does take a lot of energy. It does take a lot of risk. Of course, there's reward there. But in the last presentation, you saw about how in quad 3, there's e-commerce or there's automation. There are ways where you can service your gathering type customers in a way that doesn't require as much effort. And then again, treat every new hunt as a learning opportunity to refine the focus on your 80s. 2 practical takeaways. One on gathering. So this is really, really important. It's something called a routine maintenance schedule. So as you go through and you rank all of your customers, let's say you have 1,000 customers, so 1 to 1,000. Let's say you're ranking them by revenue. You could rank them by a lot of things, engagement or profitability. Let's just say you're going to rank them by revenue. And then you assign a rank to them. So I'm using the Delta Airlines system, diamond, platinum, gold, silver, preferred, okay? So maybe customers that do $750 to $1 million a year, they're diamond. 500 to 750, they're platinum, et cetera, et cetera. You rank them down all the way to $0 to $500. As an organization, you need to think about, okay, so those diamonds, let's start there. How can we over-service? Again, you'll get something back, but for now, how can you give? How can you serve? How can you be adding value to your highest value customers? And just brainstorm it. Maybe it's, in a business I've worked in, it was like, okay, if it's a customer, in that highest value level, our diamond customers, they're getting a face-to-face visit once per quarter with the key account manager. And then once per quarter with a regional account manager. And then when we see them twice a year at the trade shows, we're taking them out to a no-budget steak dinner. They can bring their wives. They can order whatever wine they want. We're going to do everything we can. They get the product launches first. Anything that we hear that's going on in the industry, we call them so they feel like they're on the inside. So that's diamond, right? For those of you that are loyal to airlines or to hotel chains, they do this the best of any business, right? If you are a preferred member, you book your American Airlines ticket on Expedia. You are worth nothing to the airline because they're worth nothing to you. You have no loyalty to them. You didn't even give them the courtesy of buying it through their website. You're a lower margin sale because you bought it through Expedia. You ever called customer service at American Airlines and they're like, if you bought it through a third party, call them. They're like, don't waste our time as an organization with your crappy third party, kayak.com, whatever that is, sale. Forget about it. But for those of you that have been platinum or diamond, what do you get? A phone number that's just for your status. And guess what doesn't happen when you're a diamond member? Enter your phone number, we'll call you back in 30 to 45 minutes. Oh, no. You answer it like you're calling your mom. Hello, Mr. Rockwell. It's great to see you again. I see you're headed to Atlanta tomorrow at 2 p.m. Is everything okay? It's like you get this very, very special treatment. Also, as a diamond member with Delta Airlines, you're nervous. Travel's been crazy post-COVID. You're going to miss your connection. And it's like you have a meeting that night. You really can't afford it. You're going to a smaller market, so it's like the last flight of the day. You're going to miss your connection. Well, no problem. You get off your first class seat because that's where you're sitting if you're a diamond member with Delta because they upgrade you because they care about you. They treat you special because you treat them special. And as you're about to get off the plane and head toward the jet bridge for your, Detroit-wide sprint to the other gate, they say, no, Mr. Rockwell, right this way. And they take you down a private staircase that you didn't even know existed. And what's waiting for you at the bottom, by the way, it's January, it's freezing cold, it's not a good day. But at the bottom of this special staircase is a Porsche. And it's warm, and it's running. And the driver says, Mr. Rockwell, relax, take your time. I'm here to take you to your gate so you don't miss your connection. So they race you across, like, I didn't know normal cars could be down here. You get to your gate, you walk up the stairs, you're still and the flight attendant says, Mr. Rockwell, we've been waiting for you. You're the last aboard. At your convenience, take your seat. Is there anything I can get you to drink? That's how you over-service your top customers. Does that make sense? And that's extreme, and that's bougie, and that's crazy, and all the things. It's absolutely necessary because you've created a raving fan, you've created unbelievable loyalty. And the guys talked about this in the last session a little bit about sometimes 80-20 is hard because, and again, this is in sales where there's a lot of resistance. You'll have an account manager or a business owner or someone say, we can't treat our customers different. My grandfather started this company and we've always been fair and we treat everyone the same. Here's the reality. Your customers don't all treat you the same. My wife, who buys the Delta airline ticket on Expedia, a week before the flight is not the same value as me, who flies Delta loyally for a decade, spends hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I should be treated in a different way than my wife, who is a casual traveler. Does that make sense? So you and your teams need to be thinking about what are crazy, extreme ways that we can over-service, and here's a word for you, delight. How can we delight our top accounts? I own a business in the hospitality space, and that's the question I ask our team. It's not enough to do the job. Everyone's in a good mood here. They're here to have fun. It's not enough just to make sure they have fun and they have the experience they were expecting to have. No. How do we delight them? How do we over-service them, especially our top accounts? So Diamond, you get treated pretty good on Delta. Platinum, you get treated pretty good. You get upgraded to first less, but still often. You're not, boarding group 1, but you are boarding group 2. And then you get into gold and silver and preferred, and right, so you understand the hotel or the airline equivalent. You need to figure out how you can implement those principles in your business. It's a fun exercise, and it should be refreshed every 6 months or a year. How can we better over-service our top accounts? You'll be at a trade show or you'll be networking in the marketplace, and someone will say, oh, I did this with a customer, that with a customer. A lot of you guys, you go to suites, right? You go to a Badger game or a Bucks game or a Brewers game, and you get to be in a suite. Why are they bringing you in a suite versus just some chairs with your banker? Because you mean something to them. You're high value. They want to leave an impression on you, and that does build loyalty with you as a customer and them as the service provider. So, routine maintenance schedule. It's routine because you have to stick to it. It's a maintenance. It's how you service them, and it's a schedule because you should literally schedule. These are all the ways that we serve our accounts of every size, okay? And then stick with it and refresh it, upgrade it as time goes on. Practical takeaway for hunting. So rank your top 10 accounts. So within that list of 1,000 or 100 or whatever it is, rank your top 10 and do an ICP, which is an ideal customer profile exercise, and understand what do all your top accounts have in common. It could be a geography. What are they buying? What are they spending? What industry are they in? What vertical do they operate within? But figure out your top 10 accounts, do an ICP exercise, figure out what they all have in common, and then go get more of them. So go get more of them. Don't reinvent the wheel, okay? So the ITW company that was selling commercial kitchen equipment, Chick-fil-A was not their first fast food chain, okay? They had almost every other fast food chain, and they were pissed that they didn't have Chick-fil-A. They wanted Chick-fil-A, which is why they treated it so special. So they knew what their top accounts looked like. They knew what those 80s looked like. And so they developed a plan to go and attack it, right? So rank your accounts, figure out what your top accounts have in common, and go get more of them. It's really, really simple. All right, so we applied 80-20 to our customers, and now we're going to talk about how we can apply it to our people, okay? Applying Pareto to your people. So I'm going to fly through some of these bullets here. We need to be spending a disproportionate amount of time on activities that produce a disproportionate amount of results. That needs to be something that everybody on your team knows and does second nature. Spending a disproportionate amount of time on the activities that produce a disproportionate amount of results. As leaders, you should be spending a disproportionate amount of time on the people that produce a disproportionate amount of the results. In sales organizations, a lot of times, your highest need salesperson is often your best. They're not highest need because they're dramatic or they have, culture or character issues. They're high need because, a lot of salespeople need pats on the back, need encouragement, need motivation, they need resources. They're like, hey, you're my sales manager. I'm trying to knock down that wall to get to that prize. I need you to help me knock that wall down. And they're always asking for support, for resources, for you to knock down barriers. So you should be spending a disproportionate amount of time on not just the activities, but also the people that are driving the productivity on your teams. Identify the 20% of activity that produces 80% of results, and then double and triple down. Ryan talked about this, and Sean, clearly there's 20% of what you're doing that if you really analyze it, and it doesn't even take that long, you know that it's producing 80% of the output, of the results, of the production. And so you need to double and triple down. Same thing is true with your people. There's 20% of your teams. I don't remember if I'm going to talk about this later or not. I'll say it now. So I'm big on strength finders. I was strength finders certified years ago. And the thing that I love about strength finders is the exercise, the philosophy does not surround improving weaknesses. It surrounds maximizing strengths. And so if you have A players on your team, you should be spending 80% of your time with those A players. If you have B players, you should spend some time with them. If you have C and D players, get rid of them. I mean it. They don't belong on your team. Because remember how I said 80s hang out with other 80s? 80s don't hang out with mediocre performers and producers. They don't, and they won't. So they'll either be brought down to mediocrity, or they'll bring maybe the B players up to A level. But if you have C and D players on your team, get rid of them. They're not worth your time. They're not worth human resources time. You need to eliminate them and do it fast. So identify the 20% of your team that's producing the most results. Double, triple down. Spend time on them. Develop them. Give them the resources. If you only have so much equity to spend with finance, with operations, spend it on those A players. Don't spend it on the C and D players that aren't going to be on your team tomorrow anyways. Another thing is hire strengths based on business needs. And I'm going to share a little bit more about that in a minute. But one thing that drives me nuts, and this is really common in small companies, is it kind of goes with the culture of like, my grandfather started this company, we treat everyone the same, and it's fair, and we're fair, and I lay my head down on my pillow at night, and I can sleep well because I'm fair to everyone. Another badge of honor is wearing multiple hats. I can't tell you how many businesses I walk to, and they are so proud that we all wear multiple hats here. We all wear multiple hats. And I understand where that motivation comes from. Like, we all have a heart for the company. We're here to serve each other. Those are good things. But a lot of times wearing multiple hats, it's not noble. It's stupid. Because you have particular strengths and talents and perspectives and experiences that the company is best served by you leveraging that exclusively. Does that make sense? So the things that you're best at, your highest and best use, or if you're a leader, the people on your team, it makes more sense to leverage their highest and best use than ask them to wear other hats because stuff needs to get done. So I created this Venn diagram, and this is how I try to channel my time. So I love people. I'm a people person. I like talking. I talk for a living. I like to live in my right brain, which is creative and engaging, and there are times I have to live in my left brain, which is, engineering or spreadsheets or administrative details, etc. But I am most productive, and you're most productive in the middle of this Venn diagram. What you're best at. So what did God create you to do? What makes you feel alive, which oftentimes intersects with what you enjoy the most. So what are you best at? Typically, it's also what you enjoy. And then if you're in your sweet spot in your job or in your business, it happens to also be what's the biggest impact to the organization. And so if you're good at it, but it doesn't help the organization, you shouldn't spend your time there. If you enjoy it, but you're not good at it, you really shouldn't spend your time there. So where these three things meet is where you as a producer or people on your team create the most impact for the organization. What you're good at, what you enjoy, and how does it help the organization? Boom, you're in the middle. That's where you should focus. All right, a few other pet peeves. I often see in teams, a lot of my clients will engage with us and they'll say, I want to get more out of my salespeople. I want to get more out of my salespeople. Maybe they're sales heavy. Maybe if they don't have experience managing salespeople, they don't really understand what they do or how they're motivated. I want to get more out of my salespeople. They need to make more calls. They need to spend more time traveling in their territory. They need to, in their mind, so okay, no problem. So I go in and I study the team. And it turns out the salespeople would also like to be doing those things. They would love to be in their territory more, selling more, servicing their accounts more. They would love to be smiling and dialing more because salespeople are coin operated. We like to make money, and that's a good thing. The problem is the sales department, they enter all the orders. And they do the credit memos when a return comes back, and they take the customer service complaint from the phone because the receptionist is on vacation or on a lunch break, and. Salespeople sell, admin people admin, okay? And this is the same throughout the business and every other department, but I'm here to talk about sales. Salespeople were born to sell. It's a right brain activity. It's about relationships and creativity and communication and people and fun and all these things. As much as you possibly can, help your sales organizations stay in their right brain. And a great way to suck their energy and, quite frankly, the life from them is pull them into left brain activities. I need you to analyze this report. I need you to enter these orders. I mean, seriously, I've come into teams and the team is entering orders for hours a day. That's not what you're paying your salespeople for. It's not a wise use of your resource. It's not a wise use of their highest and best use, okay? So just a little pet peeve of mine. Salespeople sell, admin people admin. As much as you can, time block your left and right brain activity. Or time block, or separate left and right brain within your department. So again, when I came into the team and the salespeople are wasting all this time entering orders, is like, I think we need to find an administrative person to enter orders. And it's not a less than responsibility, because you know that there are people out there that like love to enter orders and love to organize and love to administrate. So they get to be in the center of their focus zone. The producers can live in the center of their focus zone. So as a salesperson, when I first started in my late teens, early 20s, I was all right brain. I had no responsibilities. My responsibilities were to sell, kill what I eat and eat what I kill. And I just lived right brain. I was like Mr. Fun, always in a good mood, like wore bright clothes, and I got to talk for a living and just sell, living the dream at the health club. And it was amazing. Well, then I got promoted to be a manager. Uh-oh. Now there's some left brain responsibility on my job description. Okay, so that's a problem. So I found myself on a tour trying to sell, but I'm thinking about the HR issue, or I'm thinking about the forecasting report, or I'm thinking about the pricing schedule I was supposed to review. There's a conflict, there's a tension. So if you have a job or people on your team where there's some sort of other brained activity that's necessary, where's my guy Ryan Eckhart, my left brain brother? Right, so great people person, but I would imagine like you're happiest in the cave, left brain, sweatshirt, hoodie on, unshaven, just like killing Excel, right? But there are times like you got to come out into the world, talk to people. Tim's calling you, we got a project to work on. So if you have to operate in your other brain, it's normal, especially as you advance in leadership, time block. So I have days or half days where I call it, I'm in the cave. My phone's on Do Not Disturb. I do not answer phone calls. The reason I don't answer phone calls when I'm in the cave is because I'm right brain. I'm a people person. I love when that phone rings because I love to talk. And the problem is then the spreadsheet, the report, the forecast, the SEO project, the website build, whatever that we're working on that's necessary but left brain, I would trade the phone conversation 10 out of 10 times. So I have to time block. I'm Do Not Disturb. I'm in the basement, literally hoodie on, unshaven, sweatpants, and I'm just pounding out my left brain work. I'm focusing. I got my mood beats in my AirPods, like I'm going, right? But then days like today where I know I'm gonna have to be in front of people, I didn't look at a single spreadsheet today. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to look at reports. I'm not going to be doing any left brain activity when I could spend my afternoon doing my right brain thing, okay? So time block for yourself. Make sure your team, if they absolutely have to switch back and forth, or better yet, set up an environment where certain people right brain, certain people left brain. Salespeople sell, admin people admin. This is something that Sean mentioned a few minutes ago, but I don't think it can be said enough. We need to make sure as leaders, sales leaders, that we're incentivizing not just the behavior we desire, the exact behavior that we desire. It has to be specific. I'm biased. I think it's about results, not activity. I know some sales management styles are more about activity because they know or they think they know that it'll produce results. I'm all about results. But salespeople, they're coin operated. You put a quarter in our back and face us in a direction and we'll go. You put another quarter, we'll go a little bit further and a little bit further. And if you put a dollar in, we'll go a little faster and a little further. That's a good thing. And again, a lot of my clients, they don't understand salespeople. If they don't understand them, they might not even like them, because sometimes it's hard to like things we don't understand. The fact that salespeople are coin operated, we need to leverage that as organizations. That's good. I remember Dave and Chris at Imperial used to say commission checks were the best checks they signed all month. Of course, because the more we were making, the more they were making. It's really basic. So incentivize the exact behavior you desire. If you or your clients or your companies that you're involved with, if you're ever frustrated with salespeople's activity, look at their incentive plans. They only sell on revenue. They don't sell on margin. Are they incentivized on margin or are they just incentivized on revenue? They're going to be incentivized on the things that you pay them to care about. And that's not a bad thing. That's okay. That's the way the world works. That's how salespeople are, and it's a good thing. You should leverage it. Again, I like to focus on results, not activity. And the last thing on highest and best use, this is kind of for free, but we all have, there's a great book by author Carey Nieuwhof, and it's called At Your Best. And he did a big study about, and this is just science, but we all have times of day where we perform at our best. You have a green zone. It's usually a few hours. You have a yellow zone. It's usually a few hours. You have a red zone. I unfortunately married a night owl, and I'm a morning person. So like I am winding down for the night as she's ready to chat. And I'm like, baby, we got to figure this out. Because she's like, we never talk anymore. I'm like, I'm available at 6 a.m. Like, are you? And she's like, absolutely not. So, but we red, yellow, green. So this is really important. For those of you that know me, I don't get coffees in the morning. Right? Last couple times I've gotten coffees with some guys in here. When are we doing it? Happy hour coffees, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Because I'm in my yellow zone approaching my red zone. But people can always bring me back green. After lunch, I'm just less productive. So in the morning, my green zone is like 6 to 11. I mean, I can do 2 days worth of work, productivity, 6 a.m. to 11 a.m., okay? And I do have to give some of that to my family, which I don't feel bad about. But I don't do coffees because it's not productive work. I mean, it's networking and it's hanging out, it's good work, but I keep that green zone for productivity, things that need to be done, work with my clients, projects, et cetera, et cetera. Afternoon, in my yellow zone, I can still be somewhat productive, but for me, it's about, doing things like that are relational, that are maybe tangentially beneficial to my core responsibilities. And then my red zone, like in the evenings, later at night, I'm just not as productive. We all have a green, yellow, red zone. You probably already know where yours is. My advice with all of that is protect your green zone. Protect it. If it's the morning, you don't do morning coffees. You do afternoon happy hours or afternoon coffees. If it's late afternoon, evenings, then turn that around. But protect your green zone. Figure out when you're most productive. Again, this is about highest and best use. And even figure that out within your team. Some people are morning people. Some people come in like they don't drink, but they look hungover every single day. It's like it's a Wednesday. What's going on? They're just not morning people. That's okay. Let them shift their schedule. Let them start at 10 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. Why not? They'll work till 6 or 7 because that's when they're most productive. How are we doing on time? All right. So we talked about focusing on customers, focusing on people. I want to spend a minute focusing on time. So how to responsibly expand focus. We talk a lot about hunting, which we want to hunt more 80s, more quad 1. We talk about cultivating, which we want to cultivate in that quad 1. But like Todd asked earlier, what about new customers? What about product development? So there is a responsible way to do that. So just because an opportunity is not in quad 1 doesn't mean necessarily it's not worth exploring. I think Ryan mentioned earlier, it's all about intent. It's all about purpose. It's all about, deliberation, doing things deliberately. So here's something that's really important to remember. So remember, we talk about, the core business, quad 1, our A products, A customers, protect the fort, right? I think it's important to remember strategically, soldiers protect, builders build. Soldiers protect, builders build. So sometimes there's going to be, and I think oftentimes my recommendation is there's a different team, there's a different person, there's different resources that are focused on building, expanding with new products or growing with new customers. At Imperial Blades, we were really, really strong in the hardware, home improvement, traditional retail, think Ace Hardware, Do It Best, True Value, in that channel. But we had this burden of opportunity because we knew that there was a lot of good business to be had in the industrial channel. And so when I got there, it was kind of, everyone was sort of selling to the same people in the same way. So inside sales were also doing outside sales. And those inside/outside sales people were hardware, but they were also industrial because it was small. We were scrappy. Everybody did everything. We all wore a lot of hats. And as that ended, as we were able to segment and specialize, like Ryan talked about earlier, we were able to have soldiers protect the fort and builders expand the fort. And so we hired a salesperson, just one to start, specifically for the industrial channel. We said, we know there's opportunity there, but it's not worth risking the fort. Does that make sense? We know we can grow there, or we think we can grow there. And this was not quad 4. We were not risking the fort. This was not new products to new customers. These were our existing products that we knew sold really well to a new customer base that we were fairly certain we had opportunity in. And so we segmented it and we added a specialist. So in that industry, it's called STAFTA, which is Specialty Tools and Fasteners Distributors Association. We called him Stafta Stefan. His name was Stefan. He was Stafta Stefan, and he wore that like a badge of honor. And he's kind of different, and he wanted to be different. he wanted to be unique and special and different, and that's how we treated him. And it worked really well. So we knew we could grow in a different quadrant. We did it deliberately. We did it carefully. We segmented. We specialized with Stafta Stefan, and sure enough, we were able to add a second and then a third person. And then here's the beauty of expansion into quad 2 and 3 if it's done deliberately. If it's done deliberately, as you sell new products to existing customers or you sell existing products to new customers, you can expand the fort. You can grow the fort. Now the fort is bigger, better, stronger, more profitable, again, when that's done deliberately. So not that you can't launch new products, not that you can't go after new customers or new verticals, but you need to do it deliberately with a plan, never risking the fort. Let your soldiers protect, let your builders expand. If Q1's the engine, which we all love quad 1, the 80s, the vital few, Q2 and Q3 can be accelerators if managed deliberately. So if we want to grow strategically, we must segment our focus and specialize our teams. So Q2, Q3, we can explore growth opportunities there, hopefully bringing them back into the fort, but we do it without ever starving quad 1 in our vital few. All right, any questions at all?
I do.
Yeah.
So back to when you were talking about, right brain, left brain, leadership, and a sales manager. So from your experience, what do you think is the better fit for a sales manager? A person that is true, natural in
Yeah.
sales, or a person, maybe a previous salesperson, or somebody that's a little more on that left brain administrative side, that's a little more, that can do the administrative things versus knowing, sales in and out.
Yeah.
Because they've been there, done that. Do you feel like?
I think it's a
better
great question. I think it's about, 22-year-old me that was living right brain all the time, I started off as a really bad sales manager because I just wanted to keep selling, wanted to be like, people person, personality, live in my right brain. That's what I was most comfortable in. The organization should have done a better job and tweaked my incentive plan because I was still incentivized by producing or by my team producing, but my responsibilities lied within management. So it was partly the organization's fault that they needed to financially incentivize me to split between the two. But we all know these high-performing salespeople that are like life of the party, charisma dropping off them, could sell ice to an Eskimo, and it's like, you're good at sales, you should be the sales manager. How does that go? Oftentimes not good. On the other hand, no offense, we don't want an accountant running our team. Okay, so there is a little, I'm kidding, there's a lot of accountants in here, relax. So I think it's not about I know great sales leaders that are more left brain, but they can turn their right brain on. So I think it's about the discipline of if you have to do both, time blocking, or quite frankly, so I think I was 24, 25, first management job. I went to the company and said, listen, I am most valuable to you in the right brain. Not only selling, but leading the troops into battle, having team meetings where we get excited around a cause. I need an assistant. And they were like, what? It's like, no one has an assistant here. And I'm like, she'll pay for herself, believe me. And they gave me one. And so she half supported me, half supported the team. Same thing in Imperial. We had, I had a little bit of organizational support administratively, but then she also ran sales operations, not only for me, but for the team. So the whole department had assistance, had support. They pay for themselves. So if the organization's willing to give that, and a right brain person can be, courageous enough to ask for it, the organization can be understanding enough to give it, and we can separate, responsibilities. But again, sometimes they're just things that only you as a leader can do, so just time block them. At Imperial Milwaukee, in Eckhart, we could have used you back then, but there was this report that was very time-consuming that I had to do once a month, and I had to do it even more once a quarter. And I would literally shut my door in the office, go into the cave, no one come in, and I just had to pound that thing out. It took me 3 or 4 hours a month, and it was the worst. But only I could do it because I understood it the most. It would have taken other people more time. So I just had to bite the bullet and do it. So I think you just got to be strategic. But I've seen a lot of left brain, leading people that can be really good leaders in sales. Yeah.
So the green section?
Yeah.
Is that when you have meetings, not coffee, but is that good to have meetings during green?
It depends on, so again, treat the most special things the most special. What in your job is most important? For me, it's not networking coffees. It's tangentially important. It's kind of important. It can be important, but oftentimes it's just good to see you, man. Haven't caught up in a while. It doesn't, and that's important. That's good, but no. So for me, I just think about if I'm doing client work, if I'm doing, work for my business, what's the most important thing that needs to get done today, this week? That's what I have to do in my green zone because I have the energy, I have the focus, I don't have the after lunch slump. Again, that's just me. So determine what's highest value to you and then do that during the green zone. All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate it.